Bing. So, a couple of weeks ago, your chapter was awarded the #1 chapter in Western New York. And you should be congratulated because that's a great job. But my guess is, looking at the Palms report, is that being the #1 chapter in Western New York didn't make you any more money. It didn't put more money in your pocket in the long run. Now, I'm sure there's various pockets of some people who got a little bit more, but my guess is that most people didn't make as much money last year from BNI as they'd like. So let's solve that problem. You had the #1 chapter. Now let's talk about being one of the #1 individuals within BNI. And let's talk about the 7 highly effective things that you can do as networkers in order to increase your business. Now, Stephen Covey wrote a book not too long ago. Well, I guess it's been a few years now. And this is a presentation that was adapted from his book. So here they are in this order. #1. 7 habits of highly effective networkers. 1, be proactive. 2, begin with the end in mind. 3, put first things first. 4, think win-win. 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. 6, synergize. And 7, sharpen the saw. That's all you have to do. Now, by the way, that will make you a whole lot more money, and I guess my presentation is done. All right. So there's always one in the group, isn't there? So let's talk about those things. Let's talk about that first thing. Let's talk about being proactive. You can either be reactive or you can be proactive. Reactive means that you're being a victim. Proactive means that you're asking the question, what can I do to solve and fix what's happening right now? That's being proactive. And in order to be effective as a networker, you've got to be proactive. You've got to be out there. Now, it's okay that every so often something comes up and hits you upside the head. But being reactive means you say, ouch, that hurts. Whereas being proactive, you say, okay, I got hit in the head. What am I going to do to make sure that that doesn't create a problem down the line? That's being proactive. And if you want to be effective as a networker, you've got to be proactive. Okay? Now, being proactive also means that there's accountability involved. Now, I know people don't like that word accountability, so let's say it differently. Let's pronounce accountability differently. Let's spell it differently. Let's say it's responsibility. It's not accountability, it's responsibility. Being proactive means that you have to be responsible. See, responsible people build their lives based on 2 things, right? Principle and value. Not on emotion, but on 2 things. Principle and value. So if you're going to be responsible, if you're going to be accountable, if you're going to be proactive, then you've got to make sure you're building your life and building your business based on those 2 values, principle and value, not on the motion. Now that means that being proactive means that you also have to make sure that you're doing things, not waiting for them to happen. You're doing things. So the proactive person is the person that's out there actually inviting someone into your chapter. You're making the phone calls to invite. You're not waiting for them to walk through the door. You're making the phone call, waiting for them or to bring them into your chapter. That's something. Now, those proactive people, those people are out there looking for referrals. They're not waiting for someone to walk by, or as Arlene was talking about, they're not looking for someone, oh gee, there's a for sale by owner. They're out there looking specifically for the information that you need. That's being proactive. And if you want to be highly effective as a networker, you need to be proactive. Remember this. You are responsible for training people so that they can find you more effective. You are responsible for training people so that you are more effective. So that's the first thing. If you're going to be proactive, that's #1, right? Let's talk about #2, which is begin with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind, and that means that you need to know where you're going first. You need to know where you're going before you can go anywhere. You need to know where you're going before you can tell anybody where you're going. You need to know. So you need to begin with the end in mind. I'm sure you've sat through 1 million seminars in your professional career. And every one of those seminars have all started out and said, you need to have some goals. You need to set your personal goals. And yet, I don't know about you, but I sit down with an awful lot of people on a regular basis who don't have any goals. Now, I'm not talking about you've got to be able to foresee in the future, although quite frankly, you probably should have a long-term plan, but you need to have some specific goals for what you're going to accomplish this year, just this year. That's only 12 months away. If you can't plan for those 12 months, well then maybe you need to back up. But you need to have some specific goals for the next year and for the next 2 years. Then you need to start thinking about the next 20 years. Now, once you've got your own specific goals for you, you need to have some specific goals for your network. Now, your network in this case is BNI, so we'll just kind of talk about that. But you need to make sure that you have some specific goals for your network. Once you've set your goals for your network, you also have to have goals for the individuals in your network. And part of those goals are making sure that you know and you're telling those people what those goals are. So, for example, if you're looking to meet people in one particular profession, part of your goal may very well be that you're going to drive people in your chapter to help you meet those people. Those are your goals. And you need to have those goals for them and for you. All right? And then you need to visualize the results. You know, I've bought a number of houses, and my wife hates going real estate shopping with me because I can walk into a house, and within a very short period of time I could say to her, okay, so this would be a great house, even though, okay, well, there's no roof and there's a few other problems, but if we moved this wall here and we did this and we moved that, then we could have this. And if we did this, then we could do this. And by the way, if we painted it this color, it would really bring out the woodwork. And by the way, have you noticed how beautiful the carpets are, or how beautiful the wood are on the floors are, even though they're carpeted? I can visualize those results, and you need to be able to visualize what you expect to get from your network. So if you're going to look at and how you're going to be effective within BNI, you've got to be able to visualize that. Remember this, you are responsible for teaching people how to see more referrals for you. So you're responsible for teaching people how to see more referrals for you. So if that's the second thing, let's talk about the third thing. And the third thing is real simple. Put first things first. So we already talked about the first things, right? The first thing is obviously be proactive, right? What's the second thing? Oh, gee, begin with the end of the mind. You have got to make those habits your own. You have got to drill down and make sure that those habits are foremost in your mind, that you're running those like they're second in nature. That's the first thing. Second part about putting first things first is you've got to make a plan, and then you've got to actually work the plan. You know, think about this. In the insurance industry, I'm sure Rocco will tell you, one of the first things they tell new people who come into their office the first day is you better have a list of 100 people, 100 names, phone numbers, addresses of people that you know, right? Now, if you went through all that work to put together that list of people that you know, and then you didn't do anything with the list, how effective would you be in that industry? Not very. And yet, we see people time and time again who have this plan, this is where I want to be in 15 years, and yet they don't actually work their plan. They don't actually take the steps that they need to do. So when we talk about putting first things first, you've got to make a plan and work the plan. And then you've got to look and say, this is about relationships. Nobody's going to just walk up and say, here's a $100,000 account. You've got to build a relationship between that. Well, that's what BNI was about. That's about building relationships of trust and confidence. Well, you can do that. That's the easy part. Assuming that you have this in common. Assuming that you have personal integrity. See, personal integrity is about making a commitment and keeping it. See, what happened if you told somebody you were going to do something and then you didn't do it? How does that affect your reputation? How do people view you? If you said, for example, that you're going to be on time for a meeting and you don't show up to your number one client on time, how do they view you? Maybe the first time they'll cut you a little slack, but what about the second time and the third time? So personal integrity is a big part of putting those things first, making sure that you do what you say you're going to do. Now, by the way, does that ring a bell? Isn't that exactly what we just listened to when we went through our code of ethics when we inducted Claudette? Do what you say you're going to do. So personal integrity becomes a big deal about putting first things first. Remember this. You are responsible to spend an hour each week teaching people how to find referrals or visitors for you. You're responsible to spend at least an hour each week teaching people how to spend an hour getting to know them and teaching them how to help you. So that's the third thing. Let's talk about this. Win-win. You know, it's very difficult in sales because in sales we always want to win. And that's, let's face it, we're all in sales in one form or another. But if you're going to be effective as a networker, you have to recognize that everybody has to win. Not just you. You don't get to win. There are no winners and there's no losers. There's no victims. There's no power struggles. Everybody in networking has to win. If everybody doesn't win in networking, guess what? There is no deal. So in order to be effective and thinking about win-win, you have to recognize that networking is not about compromise. Networking is about givers gain. When I was very young out of college, I met with an individual who had a great business plan. Now, I certainly didn't know what to do with it, and I certainly didn't have any money to invest in it, but it was a great business plan. Not too long ago, I started working for a guy who also had another business that had a great business plan. And so one day I invited both of them to dinner, and we all sat down, and I said, you know, Wayne, you need to meet Tom, and Tom, you need to meet Wayne. And you need to have a conversation. And what do you suppose the first question out of their mouth was? Well, Harry, what's in this for you? And I was kind of young, and I was very naive, and I said, well, I hadn't even thought that far. I just looked at it and said, you know what? I think I can help this person, and I think I can help this person. There's nothing in it for me outside of the fact that I knew in the back of my mind that if I could get them together and they could build their business the way it should be, somewhere along the line, I was going to come out a winner. Didn't know how, I just recognized that. And you have to recognize that if you're going to network, you've got to make sure that everybody in your network is winning. There are no winners, there are no losers. So remember this, you are responsible for teaching people how to give so that they can gain. You're responsible for teaching people how they can give so they can gain. So that was number 4. Let's talk a little bit about number 5. Seek first to understand and then to be understood. Now I hear this complaint about me on a regular basis that I have a hard time listening to people. And you know what? That's a salesman's curse. Salespeople have a difficult time listening because they are so eager to tell everybody about what they can do. But recognize this. You need to be attentive listeners. There's a reason God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. It's so you can listen more with your 2 ears than you can talk. Okay? But you need to first be attentive so that you can understand that person. Understand why they're saying what they're saying. Understand where they're coming from. They have experiences and they have backgrounds that may not be identical to yours. And if you don't understand those backgrounds, guess what? You're never going to be nearly as effective as a networker, because networking is about building relationships. So when you're doing a 60-second infomercial, we have these sheets out, but you should take notes. You should be writing down what it is how you can help Jeff, well, how you can help Frank. Frank said one word that was very, very prophetic in his conversation today. And what was that? He wanted to be proactive. So if you didn't catch that, guess what? How have you lost out on being able to help Frank? So you need to take those notes. Same thing during the 10-minute presentation. You know, I made a point, I passed around a sheet about the 7 notes that are right here. And the question is, how many people are actually writing something down? How many are actually taking something? Because what I have to say today, even though I tape it, that tape is for me to listen to. What about down the road when you start thinking about what you're going to do in order to be effective? Are you taking notes? All right? Your one-on-ones, your dance cards, they're first about finding out about the person. But you know, you've all been running dance cards for the last year. You need to take that next step. And what's that next step? It's now finding out about how you can help them. But they're responsible for teaching you. You are responsible for understanding how to find referrals for others. You're responsible for finding out how you can find referrals for others. Then, by the way, you will get your referrals. So that's number 5. Let's talk about this. Synergize. Now, you know, that's a very 90s word. don't quite know what it means, but here's what I want you to understand. Synergize means this: work together. You need to work together in order to be effective. Synergizing and working together, it unifies people. It unleashes the power within your organization. You're an organization of 20. You could be an organization of 40, the power of 40 or 50 people, if you simply start working together. Remember this: the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. In other words, the chapter is greater than any one of the members. Your network is greater than any particular member. But then it gets a little bit larger. You got to be the number one chapter in the region. But the region is greater than any one of the chapters. Why is that? Because there are people out there that, if you work together, can help get you where you want. But you know what? The region is a very small pond as well. If you look at BNI as a national organization, if you look at BNI as an international organization, 5,000 chapters in 38 countries, guess what? BNI is greater than any particular region if you allow it to help. Because somewhere along the line, that referral that you're looking for comes from across the country. I got a referral not too long ago from the big guy himself, from Ivan Meisner. I got a referral, but it's because I allowed BNI to help. But at the same time, I had to recognize that if I was going to get a referral from him at some point, guess what? I was going to have to do the things in order to make me effective. Okay? So remember this: BNI and your network is not about getting a bigger slice of the pie. It's not. It's about getting a bigger pie. It's not about doing business with every individual in this room. It's about doing business with the people that every person in this room know. That is what your network is about. And you are responsible for teaching people how you can help them. You're responsible for that. So then let's talk about the last part. Let's talk about sharpening the saw. And what does that mean? You have to make yourself valuable. You have to make yourself invaluable. In other words, people look at you as a resource. You have to increase your skills. You have to increase your knowledge. Because increasing your skill and increasing your knowledge will help you down the line. But you have to increase your skill about members, and you have to increase your knowledge about the members. Two different things. Not only do you have to increase your skill and your knowledge about the members, but you also have to increase your skill and your knowledge about your network. In this case, about BNI. So that means you need to go to advanced programs. Why is that? Because they know something that you don't know. And that's okay as long as you recognize that you need to increase your knowledge and your skill. Increased skill increases the value of your referrals. See, if you get a referral today and it lands in your hand, if you don't have the knowledge and you don't have the skill, you better hope that that referral works well. However, if you do have the knowledge, if you do have the skill, that one referral can lead to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more referrals if you simply recognize that you have to sharpen the saw. If you simply recognize that you have to increase your value. Increased skills leads to increasing your value among members. People now look at you as a resource. But it's not just about members, it's about your network. Your network looks at you as a resource. Your customers look at you as a resource. That is what sharpening the skill can do. You need to start talking about your business and practice talking about your business. When you talk about FSBOs, for example, do you know, does the guy who's pumping your gas at the gas station know what a FSBO stands for? Can you talk about your business so that my 10-year-old, all right, maybe my 6-year-old or 8-year-old or however he is, can you talk about your business so that my 8-year-old can understand what it is you do? Because he doesn't know and he doesn't care. But if you're not talking to him that way and you're not talking to everyone else so that they can understand how effective is your business going to be, you know your business like the back of your hand. Your job is to sharpen your saw so that I know your business. Because here's what it comes down to. You are responsible for making yourself better networkers. So if you want to be more effective, if you want to take that little plaque and turn it into more money in your pocket, which is what it's about at the end of the day, then here's what you have to do. Be proactive. Begin with the end in mind. Put those things first. Think win-win. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Synergize or work together, and then sharpen your saw. And then you can have this phone call. Harry, I know you wanted to meet with Jerry Gerard from JEG. Here's his phone number. He's expecting your phone call. Have a great day.